I had been elected to county council, and I took office in January, and of course Hugo hit 9 months later, and it was overwhelming at first. Of course, my first thing was to protect my young family at the time. We gathered a group of people and stayed in First Baptist Church in North Charleston. It had a centralized library that had no windows and no outside walls. My wife, Debbie, had our kids and everybody else that was in that room were underneath the big table in case something did collapse. I had just had my first knee surgery. I was in a full leg cast, but I moved around and ended up moving the grand piano between the hit of Hugo, and then when the second side came, of course the winds reversed, and we had to move the grand piano because we had to keep it out of the water coming through the roof in the church. Quite an experience hearing the windows pop out, and I couldn't sit still, so I was roaming the building, checking on it. I remember I went to look out one of the windows in the hallway, and all of a sudden the roof over the porch area at the window in the church blew off. And I'm sitting there thinking, you know, what am I doing looking out this window, being nosy? Get back to your family and get safe. I had a private business. We had a automotive repair facility, and we shut down in plenty of time. We worked with the police department up until several hours before the storm to move vehicles that became stalled or what have you. We locked it down, shut everything down, and just hoped and prayed for the best. We told our people to go home, get their families ready, protect themselves and their families. It was probably 3 days after the storm before we got really opened back, and the building did sustain minor damage, but nothing like it could have. It was very trying, like with all people, getting people back to work was important. One of the main things with us, though, is we were an agency that supported the police and others in moving things for them through a towing company. And so we had to get back to work because we would be called to move things out of the road. And that more of a public service at that point. We weren't billing people or anything. It's just getting people on the move again. It's like in a family, when tragedy strikes, you really find out how strong your family is because they become that support mechanism for you. This community came together unlike it had ever come together before. It didn't matter which jurisdiction you lived in. We were an effort of working together. Probably it helped us get prepared for base closure. And that we did create cross-section relationships that helped us work together because I remember we were out of electricity for like 9-10 days. And we had companies from out of state coming in to help do the lines, and you know, and to watch the neighbors reach out to these people and thank them. And they were all grilling because they couldn't cook inside, but they would fix food for them. And it was just a heartwarming experience to watch people come together and not just think about how badly the storm affected them, but how it affected their neighbors as well. And I think it created more of a sense of community than we had had in the past. We probably got a sense of normalcy right before we went into hurricane season again. So, you know, then you sit there and say, oh my God, is it going to happen again? If you've lived through a hurricane like that, there's never a normal hurricane season for you. You always are thinking about, especially in a leadership role, like I am now, are we prepared? We've created our own disaster preparedness position here in my administration so that we can make sure that we are coordinated with all the other agencies in the area. We have a much better organized after the storm plan. and that's to create different locations where people don't have to move a lot to get help, where the help is actually located closer to the individual communities and neighborhoods. And I think that collaborative effort that we created between all the governments, I think Hugo brought us to a point that we will continue to do that. It's about the region when you have something like that. It's not about any one individual community. If you are in a position that you can leave and take your family to safety, and you know that you've got the possibility of hitting a Class 1 hurricane coming to you, leave. There's nothing more valuable than you, your family, and the lives of those you love.